What happens when the calmest man in Hollywood finally exhales a breath he's been holding for decades, live, under studio lights, with millions watching? The kind of moment no one expects, until it's already too late. Before we go any further, subscribe to Prime Tale right now, hit like, and drop a comment, because stories like this don't happen often, and when they do, they change how we see our favorite stars forever. The Tonight Show studio is buzzing the way it always does. Warm laughter floating above the audience, the band finishing a playful riff, cameras gliding into position like they've done 1,000 times before. Jimmy Fallon flashes his familiar grin, the one that promises comfort, jokes, safety. A place where celebrities come to relax, promote, laugh, and leave with applause still ringing in their ears. And then Keanu Reeves walks out. The applause swells instantly, louder than usual, heavier somehow. It's the kind of applause reserved for someone people don't just admire, but protect. Keanu nods gently, hands pressed together for a second in gratitude, his smile small and humble. He looks the same as always, quiet eyes, measured steps, a presence that doesn't demand attention yet somehow pulls all of it toward him. Jimmy rises from his chair, arms open. Keanu Reeves, everybody. They shake hands. Keanu's grip is firm but brief. He gives a polite laugh as the audience continues cheering, even after Jimmy gestures for them to settle down. Man, Jimmy says, sitting back, leaning forward with excitement. Every time you're here, people lose their minds. Keanu smiles again. That's very kind of them. His voice is calm, controlled, familiar. The voice fans have trusted for years. They sit. The band fades into silence. The cameras lock in. At first, everything goes exactly as planned. They talk about movies, action scenes, training, the physical toll of roles that never seem to age him the way they age everyone else. Jimmy jokes about how Keanu still looks like he could outrun time itself. The audience laughs. Keanu chuckles softly, shaking his head. It's a lot of work, Keanu says. A lot of ice packs. Laughter again. Jimmy presses on, playful. But come on, you enjoy it. You love the chaos. Keanu pauses for a fraction of a second. It's subtle. Most people wouldn't notice. But something in his eyes shifts, not anger, not yet, but distance. I respect it, he says carefully. I wouldn't say I enjoy chaos. Jimmy laughs, brushing it off. Fair enough, fair enough. The show moves forward. Or at least it tries to. Jimmy flips a card on his desk, glancing down. So, you've been doing this for decades now. You've played heroes, killers, lovers, legends. Fans see you as this symbol. This calm, untouchable guy. Keanu nods, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes this time. And I gotta ask, Jimmy continues, still light, still smiling. Does it ever get exhausting being, well, Keanu Reeves? There's a murmur in the audience. Not discomfort, curiosity. Keanu leans back slightly. His hands rest on his knees. He breathes in. Exhausting, he repeats. Jimmy senses something, but it's too late to step back. Yeah, I mean, everyone projects something onto you. Expectations, ideas. You're like the internet's favorite human. A few laughs ripple through the crowd. Keanu's jaw tightens. Just a little. I think, he says slowly, that being human is exhausting for everyone. The room quiets. The band doesn't play. No laugh track rushes in to save the moment. Jimmy nods quickly. Of course, of course. I just meant. But, Keanu continues, his voice still even, still calm. Some of us are allowed to be complicated. And some of us are asked to be comforting. The air shifts. Jimmy blinks, surprised. Wow, that's deep. Keanu looks at him now. Really looks at him. It's not meant to be deep, Keanu says. It's meant to be honest. A hush spreads across the audience like a held breath. Jimmy chuckles nervously. Well, honesty is good TV, right? Keanu doesn't laugh. The silence stretches, just long enough to feel wrong. Jimmy adjusts in his chair, tapping the card against the desk. You know, fans love that about you. The kindness. The calm. Keanu's fingers curl slightly against his knee. Kindness, he says quietly, is not the absence of pain. The words land heavy. Someone in the audience gasps softly. Another shifts in their seat. Jimmy's smile falters for the first time. No, of course not. I didn't mean. I know what you meant, Keanu interrupts gently. Too gently. But sometimes the version of me people enjoy is the one that doesn't talk back. A ripple moves through the crowd. Confusion, intrigue, tension. Jimmy clears his throat. Hey, we're just having fun here. Keanu nods. I know. And I am having fun. But his eyes say something else. The camera cuts briefly to the audience, faces alert now, leaned forward. This isn't the Tonight Show rhythm they're used to. This isn't safe laughter and easy applause. This is something raw slipping through the cracks. Jimmy tries to steer it back. So let's talk about your new project. Keanu raises a hand. Not aggressive. Not dramatic. Before we move on, he says, can I finish something? Jimmy hesitates. Yeah, sure. Keanu turns slightly toward the audience, then back to Jimmy. When people see calm, they often assume nothing is happening underneath. But calm is sometimes restraint. The studio is silent now. You sit still long enough, Keanu continues, and people forget you're sitting on something sharp. Jimmy swallows. His voice comes out softer. Are you okay? Keanu smiles again, but this time, it's tired. I'm always okay, he says. That's the story, isn't it? And in that moment, everyone watching can feel it. The shift from interview to confrontation, from performance to confession. The calm hasn't broken yet, but it's cracking. And the sound of that crack is louder than any applause. The silence doesn't end cleanly. It lingers, thick and awkward, the kind that seeps into the corners of the studio and settles there. Jimmy Fallon shifts in his chair again, forcing a laugh that lands flat against the weight in the room. Well, he says, clapping his hands softly once, this just got very real. A few nervous chuckles ripple through the audience, unsure if they are allowed to laugh or not. The band stays quiet. No playful sting. No rescue. Keanu doesn't move. His gaze drops for a moment, as if he's considering whether he's already said too much, or not nearly enough. Jimmy leans forward, elbows on the desk. I mean, people love you because you feel safe. Grounded. That's a good thing, right? Keanu lifts his eyes slowly. Safe for who? The question lands sharper than any raised voice could. Jimmy blinks. For everyone. Fans. People watching. Keanu nods once. That's what I thought. Another pause. Longer this time. The audience senses it now. This isn't banter. This is something unplanned, unedited, unfolding live. Phones would be out if they were allowed. People lean forward instinctively, like witnesses afraid to miss a detail that will matter later. Keanu exhales, a sound barely picked up by the microphone. When you lose enough, he says quietly, you learn how to make other people comfortable with your silence. Jimmy's smile disappears completely. Keanu. It's okay, Keanu says quickly, holding up a hand again, reassuring but firm. I'm not asking for sympathy. His fingers tremble slightly before he folds his hands together, hiding it. I just think, he continues, that sometimes interviews like this are meant to be light. And I understand that. But light can feel very heavy when you're carrying something no one ever asks about. Jimmy nods slowly, caught between empathy and the fear of losing control of the show. I didn't mean to push anything. I know, Keanu repeats. But pushing isn't always loud. The words settle over the desk like dust after something shatters. The camera cuts briefly to the side, producers standing just out of frame, exchanging looks. This isn't in the rundown. This isn't timed. This isn't safe. Jimmy clears his throat again. You've always been private. People respect that. Keanu lets out a soft, humorless laugh. They respect the version of privacy that doesn't disrupt their expectations. The audience reacts now, an audible murmur, a collective shift. Someone whispers, wow, without realizing their mic is hot. Jimmy runs a hand through his hair. Okay, let me ask you this then. Do you ever feel misunderstood? Keanu doesn't answer immediately. He stares at the desk, at the cards neatly stacked, at the polished wood reflecting the studio lights. All the time, he says finally, but not in the way people think. He looks up, eyes glassy but focused. People misunderstand silence as emptiness. They misunderstand kindness as weakness. And they misunderstand endurance as peace. Jimmy's voice drops. And that bothers you. Keanu nods once. It wears on you. The words are simple, but the weight behind them is unmistakable. The crowd applauds softly, instinctively, then stops, unsure if applause is appropriate. Keanu glances toward them, offering a small nod of gratitude, but it only deepens the sense that they are watching something fragile. Jimmy tries to steer again, gently this time. You've been through a lot. Loss, pressure, fame. But you never talk about it. Keanu's jaw tightens again, more noticeably now. Because when you talk about pain, he says, it becomes entertainment. And I've spent my life trying not to turn grief into a performance. The studio goes completely still. Jimmy opens his mouth, then closes it. For once, he doesn't have a joke ready. That's fair, he says quietly. Keanu shifts forward in his seat, elbows resting on his knees now. The posture is different, less guarded, more exposed. But tonight, Keanu continues, you asked me if it's exhausting to be me. Jimmy nods slowly. And the answer is yes, Keanu says. Not because of the work, not because of the fame, but because people expect calm even when you're burning. A collective inhale sweeps through the audience. Jimmy's voice cracks just slightly. I didn't realize that question would. It's okay, Keanu says again, softer now. This isn't about blame. He pauses, eyes drifting toward the lights above them. It's about honesty. And honesty doesn't always fit into a 6-minute segment. A producer's voice whispers faintly from off-camera. Jimmy glances to the side, then back at Keanu. We can cut to break if you want, Jimmy offers. We don't have to. No, Keanu says immediately. Too quickly. Please don't. The urgency surprises everyone, including Jimmy. I don't do this, Keanu admits. I don't speak like this. But maybe it's time I stop pretending that calm means untouched. His voice wavers now, just barely. The audience is locked in. No coughs. No movement. Even the band members sit frozen, hands hovering over instruments they won't play. Jimmy nods, eyes soft. Take your time. Keanu swallows. People tell me all the time that I'm inspiring because I stay quiet. Because I don't complain. He looks directly into the camera now, breaking the invisible wall. But surviving quietly doesn't mean you're not screaming inside. A tear threatens at the corner of his eye. He blinks it back, jaw clenched. The tension is no longer unexpected. It's undeniable. And whatever calm Keanu Reeves walked in with is now stretched thin, holding, barely, under the weight of finally being seen. The studio feels smaller now, like the walls have inched closer while no one was looking. The lights are still bright, still warm, but they no longer feel welcoming. They feel exposing. Keanu blinks again, steadying himself. When he speaks, his voice is lower, rougher around the edges, still controlled, but no longer effortless. There's this idea, he says, that if you don't rage, if you don't break down publicly, then you're healed. Jimmy nods slowly, barely moving, afraid any sudden motion might fracture the moment. Yeah, but healing, Keanu continues, isn't a performance. It's not something you prove by smiling. A murmur ripples through the audience, not applause this time, recognition. People shifting because the words have landed somewhere personal. Keanu leans back, running a hand over his face. For the first time, the calm cracks in a visible way. His shoulders rise with a breath that's heavier than all the ones before it. I've spent years being careful, he says. Careful with words. Careful with emotions. Careful not to make anyone uncomfortable. He lets out a short, almost bitter laugh. Isn't that strange? That even pain has to be polite. Jimmy exhales through his nose, shaking his head. I think a lot of people feel that way. Keanu looks at him sharply. Then why do we pretend we don't? The question hangs between them like a challenge. Jimmy opens his mouth, then closes it again. For once, the host isn't steering. He's following. Keanu's gaze drifts across the audience. Faces stare back, some wide-eyed, some damp, some frozen in the act of processing something they didn't expect to confront tonight. I've lost people, Keanu says quietly. He doesn't name names. He doesn't have to. The weight of the words is enough. I've lost futures I thought were certain. And I learned early on that the world is more comfortable with you if you grieve quietly. Jimmy swallows hard. That's not fair. No, Keanu agrees. But it's real. The band member closest to the desk lowers his head, hands clasped together. A woman in the front row wipes at her eyes, embarrassed to be seen doing it. Jimmy shifts closer, his tone no longer that of a host, but of a human being sitting across from another. Do you ever feel like people don't actually know you? Keanu smiles faintly. I think they know the idea of me. He pauses. And I helped build that idea. Jimmy looks surprised. You did? Yes, Keanu says. Because it was easier. Safer. If I stayed gentle, agreeable, calm, no one would ask what it cost. The words sting. Not accusatory, but honest. Jimmy nods, guilt flickering across his face. And tonight, Keanu says, I realized I'm tired of carrying it alone. The sentence breaks something open. A sound escapes the audience, not applause, not gasps, something raw. Collective emotion spilling where it doesn't usually belong. Jimmy rubs his hands together, voice unsteady. I don't want this to feel like an ambush. It's not, Keanu says quickly. This is my choice. He straightens slightly, as if bracing himself. But if I'm being honest, part of me hoped someone would finally ask the wrong question. Jimmy lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Why? Because the right questions never go anywhere, Keanu replies. They keep everything neat. A producer's silhouette moves behind the camera, gesturing urgently. Jimmy glances over, then back, shaking his head just enough to signal no. Keanu notices. They want to cut. Jimmy nods. Yeah. Don't, Keanu says. Not pleading. Requesting. Jimmy doesn't hesitate this time. We're good. Keanu's eyes soften with gratitude, then harden again with resolve. People think calm means acceptance, he says. But sometimes calm is just survival mode. He places a hand flat against his chest. You slow your breathing. You keep your voice level. You smile so no one asks what's wrong. His voice tightens. And eventually, people stop believing anything could be wrong at all. Jimmy's eyes shine now. That's heartbreaking. Keanu shrugs slightly. It's common. Another silence settles in. But this one is different. It's no longer awkward. It's reverent. The kind that follows a confession. Then Jimmy speaks, carefully. Can I ask you something, honestly? Keanu nods. Please. Are you angry? Jimmy asks. About any of this? Keanu considers the question longer than any before it. The cameras zoom in, catching every micro-expression, the tightening brow, the conflicted breath. Yes, he says finally. The word is quiet, but it hits harder than anything else is said. Yes, Keanu repeats. I'm angry that calm is expected. I'm angry that pain has to be digestible. And I'm angry that it took a late-night talk show for me to say this out loud. The audience reacts instantly, gasps, whispers, a few scattered claps that die quickly. Jimmy nods, eyes locked on Keanu. You're allowed to be angry. Keanu smiles sadly. That's the thing. I know that intellectually. He taps his temple lightly. But emotionally, that permission comes late. His voice wavers again. He pauses, presses his lips together, steadying himself. I don't want to be seen as broken, he says. I just want to be seen as real. Jimmy leans back, visibly moved. I think people are seeing that right now. Keanu looks out at the audience once more, then into the camera. The calm hasn't vanished, but it's no longer a shield. It's a choice, held together by effort. I hope, he says softly, that someone watching understands they don't owe the world their silence. The words echo. And in that moment, the tension shifts again, not away, not resolved, but sharpened. Because once truth is spoken, there's no returning to small talk. The calm didn't shatter. It fractured, enough to let something honest bleed through. The break never comes. Instead, the screen fades back in on a studio that feels altered, like everyone inside it knows they've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Jimmy Fallon sits still, hands folded, eyes thoughtful. Keanu Reeves breathes slowly, deliberately, as if grounding himself in the chair beneath him. The audience erupts, not with laughter, not with cheers, but with applause that builds cautiously, then swells into something thunderous. It isn't celebration. It's recognition. Respect. A standing ovation rises in waves, people on their feet before they realize they've stood. Keanu looks startled. Truly startled. He rises halfway, shaking his head, pressing a hand to his chest. Thank you, he says quietly, almost embarrassed. Please, thank you. The applause finally fades, but the energy doesn't dissipate. It lingers, electric. Jimmy exhales, eyes shining. I think a lot of people just felt seen. Keanu nods. Then it was worth it. Those are the last words spoken before the band finally plays. Soft, restrained, respectful. The cameras pull back. The show moves on because it has to. But the moment doesn't end there. Within minutes of the episode airing, clips flood social media. Short videos titled Keanu Reeves Gets Real on Fallon. The moment the room went silent. This wasn't supposed to happen. The comment sections explode. People don't argue about punchlines or outfits. They share stories. I thought calm meant I was healed. I've been silent for years. I didn't know I was allowed to be angry. By morning, headlines frame the moment as a break, a crack, a rare emotional unraveling. Others call it brave, necessary, overdue. Producers release statements praising authenticity. Fallon addresses it carefully the next night, voice steady but sincere. Sometimes, he says, the most important conversations aren't the funny ones. Keanu doesn't tweet. He doesn't post. He doesn't clarify. But days later, a single candid photo surfaces. Keanu leaving a cafe, head down, expression calm again. Different, though. Lighter. Like something heavy was finally set down. Fans notice. So do critics. Some say he overshared. Some say he shattered the myth. Others say the myth needed shattering. But the truth sits somewhere quieter. That calm wasn't fake. It just wasn't free. And for one night, under studio lights, with laughter replaced by honesty, Keanu Reeves allowed the world to see the cost of being everyone's comfort. Not broken. Not undone. Just real. Now it's your turn. What did you feel watching that moment? Did it change how you see Keanu, or how you see yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your voice matters here. And if you want more intense, cinematic, behind-the-moment stories like this, make sure you subscribe to Prime Tale. This is where the calm cracks, and the truth comes out.